I need your permission to operate independently.
Permission granted!
Thank you.
What's up, everybody? I'm sitting here with Leigh Whannell, the co-creator of the Saw franchise and the Insidious franchise, and he's got his brand new movie that he wrote and directed, Upgrade, out June 1st this year. Thank you for coming to the office and chatting with us, Leigh.
Thanks for having me. This is a great office.
There's a gun implanted inside his hand.
So I had the opportunity to see it last night. Great film, super fun. Every part about it is just really very imaginative and fun. Obviously pays homage to a lot of different films with sci-fi and horror. Kind of what were your inspirations as you were writing and directing this?
During the writing process, I was consumed by the story. Like, that's always the hardest thing to get right with any film when you're writing it is the story. You know, because it's very hard to get a film made, and the only thing that's going to get it made most of the time is, you know, a solid script. But later, as I was starting to get into production, I did start to watch films like RoboCop, The Terminator, films that I grew up with from the 80s that really reflected the height of practical effects. And the reason I looked to them, despite them being great movies, I also loved the fact that they were achievable sci-fi films, meaning that the special effects within them were things that had been done in camera with practical effects. You know, I felt like when I looked at a film like The Terminator or RoboCop, I felt like I could achieve a film on that scale.
Also, Terminator and RoboCop remind me of Logan's performance in the film. He very much has that kind of vibe. What went into kind of directing that, and how long did it take for him to get that perfect kind of robotic movement?
Well, it was something that was always in the script, and it was something I always knew I wanted to do. When I'm making a film, I'm always looking at the script thinking, what's different about this? Whatever genre it is, I'm always trying to throw darts at it and figure out how I could make it better and how I could make it more unique, more specifically. And so this idea of somebody whose head is doing something different to their body was appealing to me. I thought it was unique, and if we could get it right, it'd be something audiences hadn't seen before. So when I was introduced to Logan and we talked on the phone, I told him straight away, one of the first things I said to him on the phone was, I really want you to learn to do something different with your body. That was followed by a few months of him training. You know, I was doing pre-production in Australia, and he would email me videos of himself in his backyard, and I would give him notes. You know, I would email him back and say, hey, you know, less Tin Man, you know, don't robot dance. Just, I wanted a very sort of graceful fluidity to it.
It was very interesting because it like almost, the fight scenes feel almost like a ballet. Right. More than like fights, although they end up very visceral and intense in the fighting, so the balance was really interesting to watch. Yeah,
that's great. I like that you said that, because that's what I was going for. I did want that. I did want this ballet feeling. And I actually had the production employ a dance and movement coordinator to work with Logan, not just the stunt team. I knew the stunt team could teach him how to fight and punch someone and dodge a punch, but I wanted to go further than that. I wanted him to learn that kind of the fluidity of ballet and of dance. And so I had them work in tandem with each other, and it was really fun.
In addition to both Logan's acting, the cinematography really lends itself well to all of the action sequences. How did you go about kind of these very fun and interesting kind of camera tilts and all those other things? And how do you find the balance between making it feel like gimmicky versus just kind of cool?
Well, the balance is tough because it's subjective. My version of too much might be your version of not enough. And so you really have to use yourself as the barometer and say, okay, this is what I feel is the right amount of camera movement or camera trickery. You don't need to do very much for it to have a big impact on an audience.
Are there any horror films that like still manage to scare you now that you've been involved in making them so long?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm glad that I am still affected by horror films. Not only are there movies from when I was younger that still affect me, there are new films coming out, horror films. Just a week or two ago, I saw this film Hereditary, which is a new horror film that kind of made a splash at Sundance, and I had read about it and I knew it was out there, and I had a chance to see it, and really affected me. And I do have an ability to sit in a movie theater and really switch off that movie making side of me. I forget about lights and makeup, and I can sort of give over to the movie, and I'm really thankful for that.
That's cool.
I never want to lose that, because I don't want to lose the ability to be a viewer.
For people that go out and see Upgrade and love it, what science fiction films do you recommend they follow up with?
Anyone who hasn't seen the original Terminator film, I would highly recommend that. Terminator 2 is a great film, and I love that film, but it's very big and expensive and cutting edge. What I love about the first Terminator is how kind of lo-fi and punk it is. One sci-fi movie that I really love is Cube. That's another one that I think is very contained. I seem to gravitate towards these sci-fi movies where the constraints of the film are obvious, like it's all set in one room or a small cast. And I would say anyone who hasn't seen Videodrome, I mean, that's a great Cronenberg one. I do love these sci-fi films that utilize practical effects, because I find that with CG, at a certain point with these huge tentpole movies, to me it becomes a bit numbing. It's almost like if you can do anything, nothing means anything.
Right.
Whereas when you reduce the sci-fi down to a couple of characters, all of a sudden it takes on this huge meaning for me. So I would recommend those smaller films, Videodrome, Cube, and The Terminator.
Thank you so much for hanging
Thanks
out
for
with
having
us.
me.
Yeah, you guys can check out Upgrade June 1st in theaters. And for more on Upgrade, horror films, and everything else you love, stick on FANDOM.